Hello and welcome to Kelly Legends Media. Okay, I'm going to get right into this. You see the thumbnail. I guess for the most part, people believe that it's time for Cholo Juan and Blue Devil to put on the gloves, man. Blue Devil made a reaction video based on some things that Juan was saying about him on one of his videos. I'm pretty sure Blue Devil believed that the video was going to be about something other than what it was actually about. Okay. I think he went in cautiously, thinking, okay, let's see what this is going to be about. Well, Juan came out and he had made some comments about some of the about some of the things that they call Blue Devil. Okay, and some of them are only what he calls him, but nevertheless, he put it out there, and then he said, I'm going to show this dude some respect, and I'm just going to call him by his name, right? Which didn't last very long, and he was already back into using the nicknames that the public and himself have put on him, on Blue Devil. And Blue Devil's defenses went up. I don't think he realized it, but it came through, you know, on Blue Devil's video. And I think his defenses came up, and he was like, this vato, you know, he says he's going to do something, and then he don't do it. It's palabra vale dick, you know. He says one thing, and he does another. Let's see what else this dude has to say, right? So during the video, he brings up a couple of things, but I think the ones that stood out was that the Blue Devil had pretty much threw some shade on the norteños, you know, and didn't really want to mess with them, you know. And Juan, in his opinion, said, hey, you know, them vatos are all right, you know, we ain't got no beef with them, and there should be no reason to treat them any other way except with respect, unless they come disrespectful, you know. And, you know, there's nothing more than I would like than for that north and south shit that's going on up north to stop, you know. But right now, at this point, it looks like there's no end in sight, okay? And you got to keep in mind that the upstate sureños, the sureños that are up north, are part of the sureños that are down south. It's just one big car, you know. So if you're part of that program and you're running under those premises, then basically you have to have the backs of the Southsiders, the upstate Southsiders, you know. So a lot of people don't really like to mess around with people from the north. They're very careful about that. Blue Devil says he likes to help the youngsters that are trying to come up in their rap career and stuff, and he uses his platform to help them elevate, you know, which is a good thing, you know, because hopefully if they get successful and they start doing something with their lives, maybe they'll realize, you know, I'll have a better life being in the studio than being out in the street, or I'd have a better life making money and living out here than to be having a hustle behind the wall, you know. Nevertheless, it's a slippery slope, you know, politically. So yes, I would like to see that come to an end. But the way it stands right now, like I said, I believe that's a slippery slope as far as using your podcast or or other means to give praises or uplift guys from up there. You know, it's a shame, but it is what it is. You know, somewhere in the video, Blue Devil mentions that, you know, if you're part of the program, if somebody's pushed out, then we know where they stand, and if you're with the program, then you should keep your distance also. He even went as far as saying that, you know, when it comes down to it, you know, when these vatos say to jump, basically his response is how high, you know. And you know, people feel differently about it. Nevertheless, the situation does exist. It's a real situation. And if you ever end up behind the wall for something, you may have to answer for your actions, you know. I learned early on in this game that, for example, like to have someone who dropped out on your podcast and they're up there talking about how they survived and how they, you know, they had to get down, and, you know, they were able to stay on a certain yard or whatever, you know, and they're bragging, pisses people off, you know. And I know people that got in trouble for that. And anyways, it's better just to not get involved with that kind of political banter on your platform. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as musically and in a business sense, then that shouldn't even be brought up. It should just be business, music, event, you know, and all of that gang banging stuff should be left out of that, because it's business, you know. And so if you're helping a young man, any young man, get his feet wet and use your podcast as a you know, somewhere to launch yourself and get known and to step out, then I could see it as a business arrangement. But once they start bringing up you know, political stuff and you know, throwing hand signs from the north and talking about northern politics, and that pretty much probably would end any type of help that they'd be getting. I don't see nobody getting help from up north. Any of the people down here that are trying to make it, getting any help from up north, because it's all political, you know. You go up there, they're gonna get shit thrown at them, water spit at them, and all kinds of. They're gonna get treated bad, and that's all they're gonna get from up there, you know. So nobody even thinks about going and doing business up there. Anyways, Cholo Juan brought it up. He gives Blue Devil some credit for changing his attitude towards the guys up north, you know, which I think is a good thing. You know, those people who live up north, they come from the same place we do, you know. There's even families that live down here and up there, you know, same bloodline. The only thing that I think is missing up the unity is the gangs, you know, and I wish that could have never have happened or gone away, but it does exist. And he also mentioned about Renegade Media, okay, because I guess sometime or another Blue Devil had mentioned something about Renegade Media that Juan misconstrued and said, hey, Blue Devils be watching Renegade Media, you know, and he's I'm gonna say it. He was real trying to be real careful about not saying it. But anyways, he's a dropout, not only from the main line. He's a dropout from SNY. But I guess they give him credit for coming out and saying that, and like it's up to Blue Devil and everybody who they want to watch. Nobody could make somebody's mind up for them, and yeah, I guess that's true. As far as having them on your podcast, then I think you'd be pushing it a little bit too far. You end up back in jail and prison. You're gonna get questioned about it more than likely if somebody remembers and somebody recognizes you. But on the same token, Blue Devil brought up Swifty Blue. So he says, well, if we got to keep away from these people that aren't appreciated or wanted around by the program, then Swifty Blue needs to be kept away from also. But Cholo Juan hasn't made any videos about Swifty Blue since all of this stuff exploded and came out, the situation and the problems that he's having, and how he's not part of the program right now. So I guess Blue Devil kind of challenged him, like, hey, well, we'll see how long before we see him with Swifty Blue making videos or whatever, yeah, so it turned out that the video that Juan made was more giving Blue Devil props. It seemed like it was difficult for Cholo Juan to do it, for him to get it out, but he was doing it in his way. And I think towards the end, Blue Devil did recognize that, that it wasn't he wasn't ditching Blue Devil or talking him down or nothing. He was just bringing things up and mostly giving him props for changing his way of thinking and the way of operating, his podcast, and anyways, my channel, I always try to discourage young people about getting in gangs, getting involved with gangs, because of all the chances of loss of life, loss of freedom. You could get injured in a way where you could end up in a wheelchair. I got homeboys that are in wheelchairs behind gunshot wounds, and I've lost a lot of homies to the streets, and there's other factors that go along with being a gang member, and I highly recommend, and I always recommend that for a youngster to steer away from that, man, and look for some type of career, and I know they have a strong rap, I don't know what to call it, presence, as far as rappers go and stuff. I've seen some good videos come out from the north, and so they shouldn't have any trouble going to their people up there for them to help them elevate and get to where they got to get to be successful, and hopefully start leaving all this gang stuff out, and rap about the good life up there and the good things to do, and the cruising and the beautiful women and all of that, but time will tell. We'll see if things make a change before I leave this earth. I'd like to see it, and I'm hoping for the best for everybody. Be careful, people. God bless you and your family. Stay safe and make good decisions. I know sometimes we get mad, and but what we could do is we could fuck off our freedom in just a few minutes. That's all it takes. So thank you for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed to the channel and you're watching the videos, it only takes a second to hit that subscribe button. You could set that notification bell any way you want, but I would suggest putting it on all so you'll be notified whenever a video comes out or if we go live. And very important, hit that like button, because it's very important to content creators. It helps move their videos through the algorithm and get shown more across YouTube. So that being said, I'm going to thank you for watching. Hope to see you on the next video. And God bless each and every one of you.